Beyond Bitcoin Hangouts are meant to give everyone a voice, a chance to speak with others who are passionate advocates for expanding the blockchain's use cases out into the world and beyond. Do you have a crypto community you would like to represent and hold open hangouts for? If so, you might find yourself on the path to owning a stake in Beyond Bitcoin. We are looking for people who care about people who want to bring others together, because crypto communities are people. Beyond Bitcoin is a movement of thinkers and doers in the crypto space. And if you feel you are one of them, reach out to beyondbitcoin@gmail.com for more information on how to debut your community's efforts to reach to the stars and beyond. Welcome everyone to another Beyond Bitcoin Hangout. Today is Friday, March 10th, 2017, and this is episode 198. We've been around here for a while. A bunch of people who are interested in cryptocurrency, the technology, the blockchain technology that goes behind it, and the encryption that secures it. We're all computer nerds to a degree, and nerds who are looking for solutions in everyday problems that we have and that we are consistently learning that we have more of in this information age, with big data being one of the best pieces of gold, one of the gold nuggets out there. So blockchain technology is something that goes way beyond Bitcoin, whose first use case was to enable people to send value or to transfer data on a ledger that mimicked value in its own way, and created the ability to actually have a trustless system where you could pass that value without a third-party middleman. So we kind of started out saying that there's some other cool things that we can do, and we created we've covered the creation of BitShares. Many people here are considered founders of BitShares, which is a decentralized exchange and a platform for the creation and passing and trading of other crypto-based tokens. And we've now started to use another tool in this revolution of innovation that we are helping to support, which is called Steem. And steemit.com is the front end for that. And that's where you will go if you ever have the interest in joining our Hangouts to find out how to get onto our Mumble server, or to get coverage. You will go to our RSVP threads under the tag Beyond Bitcoin on steemit.com, and you will sign up there and ask all of your friends to join up and upvote you to make sure that you get seen and get put to the front of the line. So with that said, we utilize these tools. We are about to have another cool tool called PeerPlays, which is going to be a gambling or gaming. It's not just gambling. It's kind of like sports betting, and it connects up to a lot of different things in the gaming industry. And that's another use case that we're covering. And we're going to be covering not only these bigger projects, but the little projects that people are working on that are going to make these projects bigger and stronger. If you have a chain that you would like to create, or you have your own project that's going to work with one of these chains, please feel free to join up, RSVP, and get to know us and become part of our community and support one another, because this is how we give everybody a voice. Now, with that said, up first today is going to be Data Security Node and Crypto Prometheus to talk about PeerPlays, to provide some updates and to field some community questions, just as they always do here on the Beyond Bitcoin Hangouts. So I'll go ahead and I'll step back and I'll say, Data Security Node, feel free, if you are there and available to talk about this next epic graphene chain that's about to be launched.
Thank you very much, Fuzzy. Can you hear me okay?
Beautifully.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. My name is Jonathan Bahai. I am the president of the PeerPlays Blockchain Standards Association, the company, the nonprofit organization, actually, which is heading up the PeerPlays project. And for this week's update, we had lots of exciting things happen. Earlier this week, we had Robin Wilkie, who is our outreach education coordinator, start with the PeerPlays team. She is working with us here at the bunker, and since she's gotten on board, she's been very, very busy working on strategies and planning out all kinds of exciting information and outreach programs for the project. And that has been really great having her on board. She is very skilled in what she does, and a great team, a great part of our team. We also, earlier this week, had an interesting story come out from sports and politics. Sorry, it looks like we've got somebody. Sorry about that. It looked like somebody was interrupting the broadcast. So for that last part, I'll... okay, great. So for that last part, we had, like I said, Robin is part of the team, and she's on board, and we're very excited to have her, and she's doing a great job so far. And earlier this week, we had sports and politics do a write-up on us in regards to the PeerPlays project. Talked about how PeerPlays is Uberizing sports betting. It's an excellent write-up. We tweeted it out. You can check it out on sportsandpolitics.org. And earlier this week, we also had Michael land in Amsterdam. And he is busy right now getting our remote office set up in Amsterdam. From there, we'll be able to coordinate with some of our team there, as well as work within the European region for the PeerPlays project as well. So those are the primary updates for this week. In the coming weeks, we basically have been over this last week planning out and strategizing all the information and the next things that you're going to see released regarding the PeerPlays project and sports betting. With that, I'd like to hand over any questions you may have with Michael, who is here with us today, broadcasting from Amsterdam.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jonathan. This is Michael Maloney. I'm the Director of Intelligence at the PBSA. Yes, as Jonathan said, I'm broadcasting from Amsterdam right now. We just landed here a couple days ago. I'm here with my operations manager, the PeerPlays Blockchain Standards Association, head of operations, Toby Linus. And so we're setting up an office here and just beginning to coordinate. As many of you guys know, we have teams now in Eastern Europe, in Asia, as well as in North America. And now we're very excited to be in Europe. So this is what we've been occupied with over the last couple weeks. I've been in Asia and speaking with a lot of really exciting partners there, and I believe that I'll be going back there in about a month. So lots of fun stuff. But I don't really have any specific updates for you guys. So rather than sort of mumble on here, I want to open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions about the current, well, really anything at all, this is what I'm here for. So go for it.
All right. What is the reason that we haven't seen the witness requirements yet? I'm sure you guys have a good reason for it, but I would like to avoid the issue, if possible, to have a last-minute rush on that information where everybody scrambles to get up to speed and figure things out. That's why an earlier release would help alleviate that problem. But maybe you have a good reason for restricting the access to that information right now.
Sure. So our plan as of right now is about mid-April to put all that out. The reason for this, Tom, I'll let you know, and everyone is relatively aware of this, is that when the blockchain launches, it's going to be very, very, very similar to the core graphene toolkit in terms of what the witnesses are required to do. There will be many additions over the summer and going into the fall as we gear up to release the bookie application, the sportsbook application. So the reason why we haven't really come out with it yet is because anyone who's run a BitShares witness before is going to be able to run a PeerPlays witness with very few, very little headache, very little.
For technical issues, that makes good sense. And I guess what I have been expecting was that some of these requirements which are yet to release are not so much dealing with the technicals, although I think that's important. But I think, like you said, most of us that have been here and doing witness work for Steem or BitShares won't have any difficulties with that. What I understood was that there's going to be a whole other layer of requirements, an Oracle requirement or something else and that's the mysterious part that I'm really trying to understand, that seems to be what I'm looking for, and not so much the technical issues you mentioned.
Sure. So that will be rolled out with plenty of time. Let me just say that, Tom. The current date for the sportsbook application is this fall. So we always release things publicly with plenty of time. We're very aware of that. We understand that naturally we want to get as many people aware and interested as possible. I don't want to be I don't want to put exact numbers on things, but you'll have, before the blockchain launches, you'll have probably roughly a month. But like I said, it's all going to be very familiar to anyone who's run witnesses. As things go over the course of the summer and moving into the fall, there will be additional requirements, and everyone will be spun up to speed on those as they are released.
So it sounds like the initial requirements are just the basic witness technical requirements, and most everybody that's done that is going to be familiar with that stuff. So I don't think there will be a big rush if the initial launch is just going to require those things. That should happen pretty painlessly and pretty smoothly.
That's very correct, and again, ultimately, getting in early and being in a good spot is from what we've seen in the past, advantageous. I can't obviously speak for any PeerPlays holders except myself, but the people tend to vote for people who are active in the community and who have been known to have good experience, and and this, as I've mentioned before, this is going to be a potentially very, very, well, I was used to the term lucrative, but it's going to be a well-paid position. PeerPlays has an argument in a use case quite different from Steem or BitShares, and this is going to require actual new breed of witnesses that have time requirements and can get paid quite well for them. So all
right, now let me pause you again. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but what you just said is what is in my mind these additional, or more, I'm going to say more mysterious requirements, and that's what I would like to see disclosed. Now, again, what is the reason that you're holding that back from us?
Okay, sorry. I'm trying to figure out which question you're answering. Okay, what is the reason that I'm withholding? The reason that we are withholding is because PeerPlays is a business. The PeerPlays Blockchain Standards Association is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to the development of open source software code. This open source software code will be released at a time that we feel is a strategic time, because the reality of business, or anyone who's operated any business knows, is that if you put everything out there and then you wait 6 months before anyone's actually using it, you have a situation with the open source software code where many other people can go and look at what you're doing and back engineer it and come up with their own versions and God forbid even launch their own blockchains that have sort of taken that. So a competitive edge is what is the term for what I'm describing, and PeerPlays requires a competitive edge. We've always stated this. We've always been very upfront with this, and we feel that it is our responsibility, as we're responsible for producing software code that will be used by PeerPlays, to not put that out there at a time when it's so far early of when it's actually going to be forked into the chain that everyone and their mother and their grandmother is able to look over it and extract what they can, and so does that make sense, Tom? Because I know I've explained this multiple times in the past, and I'm hoping that explanation kind of hits on the points that you're looking for.
Well, it kind of does, I guess. I mean, I first of all, I'm not down on you guys for withholding information if it's a legitimate business concern. I mean, if this is a strategic if this information that differentiates PeerPlays witnesses from others is strategic to the core of your business, and I don't want you to reveal anything prematurely, of course. I'm never going to hold you accountable to do something silly like that. I just want to make sure that I understand those differences so that I can be prepared for operating in a manner that is different from the other chains. That's what I'm getting at. So you're probably the only one that can really judge whether or not that information needs to be withheld for the time being. I'm just trying to get a handle on what it is. You know what I'm saying? What makes it different?
Yeah, so all of the information, if you're worried about having time to understand it and get spun up on it, one of the things that we're focusing on is providing external tools as well. So it's not, the only metaphor I can give you right now, and I'm sorry I can't, maybe give you exactly what it is you're looking for, but the when BitShares launched, there were a lot of tools that needed to be created by third parties that some of them did and some of them didn't get directly paid for it. So we're taking all of the headache out of it. We're putting together all the tools that are necessary. We're putting together plenty of information. Tom, it's going to take you, if it takes you a week, I would be very, very surprised. You understand how all these things work, and so if that's your worry or concern, I'll just say that there's not any technical issues here. You're not going to fall behind the curve somehow because we release this and you don't have time to understand it when it's released. So okay, so I've got another question here from P-Funk. This reminds me, is PeerPlays going to be under a similar license as Steem? Yeah, so we're still speaking with the lawyers about the exactly how PeerPlays Blockchain Standards Association is going to license the software that they put forward. So I can't really comment too much more about that at this time. Let's see, blah 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 blah. Yeah, that's all. I'm not very good at reading the chat at the same time as I'm talking, so I'm kind of scrolling back here to see if
Sure,
there's...
I can read them off, but I think that was actually P-Funk was the last person who really brought up a whole lot about it. Of course, G-Chicken answered the question about some of the stuff with the witness roles while Tom was talking.
Good stuff. Well, I'll just kind of wrap up here, I think. As Jonathan said earlier, we're moving into a very big phase. We've got many people on board this project now internally, and more people continuing to come on board. We're focusing over the next few weeks to be putting together some new content. That's content meaning video. Visual as well as written. Many new exciting things are going to come out. You're going to learn a lot more about what we're doing, leading up to the launch of the blockchain. Obviously, we'll have technical requirements and everything will be disclosed with plenty of time for one to be able to review everything and get set up and get situated. As everyone knows here who's been involved with the launch of a blockchain before, various ways. Launching a blockchain is a sort of seminal event that it means that it's now in the hands of the community in certain ways, and especially with graphene-based blockchains when it comes to voting and consensus. So the term consensus, not just in the specifically blockchain-related term, meaning the the way that the blocks are actually validated and proven to be the correct version of the chain, but also consensus in sort of the wider governance type connotation, meaning how everyone who's involved with the entire blockchain decides certain things that have to do with the fate of the business as it moves forward. So
self-governance.
Yeah, self-governance. So this is something that's really big, and it's something that requires a lot of people on board that understand what's at stake and are aware enough to keep up with what's going on. I think someone mentioned earlier the concept of active management. I think Tom, you were saying that in the earlier Hangout today, and active management is very much it's very important in complex endeavors. You can't just I think, as Chris said, you can't just have a to-do list and then just start doing them. There's a lot of synergy that happens in these ecosystems, and we are the tools are now available to all of us in many different ways, and a lot of people are ready for this now, and so these next few months obviously are going to be about pulling all that together, and then pulling the metaphorical trigger, as it were, which is the launch of the blockchain, and then of course a sort of cascade of code and features that we'll be releasing over the course of the summer and into the fall. So many times coming up. But I just want to say thank you again to everybody, and obviously thank you to Fuzzy. And I'll close by giving you guys just real quick our details. PeerPlays.com is the website for PeerPlays. PeerPlays.com/news is where there's a whole bunch of exciting information. We post everything that we post new reports, new updates to that /news site. Also, our handle on Steemit is @PeerPlays. And we have a Telegram channel, actually. I should have led with that. A new Telegram channel for anyone who's active and likes to participate in the sort of streaming conversations that happen on Telegram. We have a PeerPlays Telegram group now as well, so be sure to head over and check that out. And that's all I got today. So thanks a lot, guys. And I will see you next week.
That Telegram group is only, 3 or 4 days old, and it's filling up pretty quick, man.
Yep. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of active conversation, which is important. And quality is more important than quantity always. Is one of my So we've got a lot of people that have been able to get what's going on, and we've got a lot of support from community members as well, which is really great. It's really been very helpful for us to have people be able to respond and help new people that come in. Naturally, we're working to set up some sort of internal communication channels better to sort of be able to disseminate the easy to the frequently asked questions. And make sure that if someone has a question that's constantly asked, we can have a place where people can link them to and things like that. So, yeah, we do our best to to help as much as possible. Of course, the community at large is the community, and we want to provide everyone an opportunity to have a voice and to get involved and stuff too. So, but yeah,
quite literally, those who are involved are going to be getting something back from the chain. That's how these systems work. If you're running a witness, you're going to get paid. You're going to have, even from what I understand, the potential to work for the chain. So there's different opportunities to be part of the community and be part owner at the same time. This is a revolutionary idea for so many use cases, and we're now on number 3 of some of the most powerful use cases I've ever considered, right? A DEX, a social media, and now we have, you guys are going to cover, it seems to me, an entire spectrum of gaming, not just game betting. So, there's a lot that I see you guys doing with what PeerPlays is up to. So, really good stuff, man. Thank you, as always, for joining up and giving everybody all this information, answering the questions. Sometimes we have certain questions that are asked multiple times. I personally am happy with that because I appreciate everybody's patience with it. For those of you who have heard this and you go, oh, this question, I've heard this before. But for those of us who are here, we don't always recognize that there's a lot of newbies who do listen to these Hangouts, and they might not be newbies to crypto, but they might not really understand all these little details that are changes, because this is the first time they've heard about graphene and all these different things that are going on. So I just want to say thank you guys for asking the questions, and thanks for having patience for those questions that have been asked more than once, because hitting it like you said, crypto, from multiple angles is generally a good thing. So with that said, Agent 725, step up. Agent, feel free to give us a little introduction, get into, go from kind of the bird's eye view into a little bit of, maybe we can answer some more technical questions afterwards. But let's go ahead and give us a little bit of an idea of what's going on with the Internet of Coins, what it is, how you came to want to do this, and then we can get into some community questions.
So yeah, the Internet of Coins is an environment for personal finance, and it's the idea is that people get used to using cryptocurrencies as if they are using email to make it really easy. And what we're doing with this platform is trying to create something that enables users to also swap cryptocurrencies, a bit akin to Shapeshift, but then decentralized, and not as fast as a decentralized exchange or a DEX, but an inter-blockchain swap, so that you can move the value from one blockchain to the other. And of course, technically, since these values cannot be moved from one blockchain literally, other than parking them, for example, and releasing them, we're making sure that this happens through allocated swaps.
What is an allocated swap for somebody who's new to this game?
So let's say a user is using Internet of Coins. What the user can do is log in and see all their cryptocurrencies in one place, and be able to send and receive transactions, of course. But also there will be a button where they can allocate the cryptocurrency that they have in pairs. For example, they can allocate Bitcoin and BitShares. And when they do that, both of these cryptocurrencies that they have become available for others to create a swap. And when another user uses that allocation to swap the coins, the allocator gets a small fee for making that swap available.
Oh, so you kind of loan yours as an escrow agent in a way.
Yes. A lot of people can do that at the same time on the network, and then the idea is that when you do a swap, you can use either one escrow agent, but you can also use many of them. And while these people are allocating, the nodes take care of the swaps, which means that the funds are parked in specific addresses that are escrowed by this system itself. So at that moment, an escrow cannot take control of the transaction to, for example, try and trick people out of their value, because that's what we're trying to solve, that problem.
So what started this? Why did you want to do it? And then maybe we can get a little bit further into some of the technical aspects of it.
What started it was in 2014. Me and my co-founder Robert, we were using exchanges, and at the time, a lot of these exchanges were having problems or going down. We could see, like, for example, everybody knows MTGOX, but we also had Vercurex suddenly freezing funds, Cryptsy, well, Cryptsy was a terrible disaster. So in that way, we were very annoyed with what was happening with these centralized exchanges, and we wanted to create something like a decentralized exchange, but we saw that work like that was already underway. But a lot of the problems that were cropping up while people were working on this were things like, for example, atomic swaps that work, but where blockchains have to be compatible. And if the blockchains are not compatible for an atomic swap, then the swap cannot happen. And also we saw that a lot of these initiatives that were trying to do inter-blockchain transfers required changes to the wallets or changes to the cryptocurrencies. So we decided, okay, we need to find out what is the strength of such an approach, but what is also the weakness. And we saw that if you have to ask every cryptocurrency to change their code base before they can actually hook into a decentralized network of coins, that is, it would not be an optimal situation. There's a lot of cryptocurrencies that are abandoned but still in use, and you also want to have them aboard. And so we thought it should be as easy as having a website online that you should be able to hook a cryptocurrency into a decentralized cryptocurrency network. So that's where the idea was kind of born, and we started to look at ways and how to solve this problem.
And that's where you guys came up with proof of allocation. Is that fair enough to say?
Yes, that's right. Whereby the system sees that there's an allocation which is put on the network, whereby the user at that moment doesn't have control of the private key of the value that is stored on the network, but a swarm of users only has control together. And by doing it in such a way, you can actually guarantee that a person acting as an escrow cannot run off with the funds because in a decentralized world, as it were, it's a lot harder to solve a dispute than when you're on a centralized platform. But on a centralized platform, the entire platform itself can run off with the money, and so you have trade-offs there. And we decided, okay, if you do it decentralized, you must make sure that if somebody makes the funds available for swaps, that at that moment the funds are really part of the network itself and not in the hands of the user, and that the user has power over whether the swap will go through or not.
So is it kind of like a smart contract of sorts that you have your own blockchain that kind of logs when somebody puts this escrow up or connects their wallet up to it?
Yes, it's comparable, but it's different than the smart contracts that we see, for example, on Counterparty or Ethereum. We use a system to exchange data between peers called a weave chain, and it's a temporal immutability system, which means that it can also forget data after a swap has been done to conserve storage space.
Oh, that's really kind of cool. I don't want to get too deep into the legalities of that, but have you guys talked about that at all, or are you guys in a jurisdiction where you feel like that's not a problem? How do you guys deal with that aspect?
That a swap is forgotten by the weave chain. In a case of a swap or a transfer, of course, the blockchains that are involved do still store a transaction, and but it's true that there is an aspect of anonymity to the idea of the weave chain, which can be solved if somebody or someone starts monitoring it, just like the blockchains are monitorable. But we wanted to focus on being able to conserve storage space, so we had to do a trade-off there.
So is it kind of like as soon as the transaction's done, it's no longer needed, so no need to keep a record for it? The blockchain's just there as the middleman for that transaction, and then it's over?
Yeah, the weave chain has strands, and those strands are like indeed a middleman escrow system for managing the swarm of allocators that actually make the value transfers happen. And after that, these transfers are recorded on the blockchains. But on these blockchains, it's likely you will not be able to see from which other blockchain the transaction was done, the swap itself, unless that is specified as a parameter of the transaction in, for example, the text field that you can add with Bitcoin. But we didn't focus on adding that. We just wanted to make sure that it works, and the recording of such transactions should be immutable as long as the swap is happening. But afterwards, well, that's up to the user. We think that the privacy of the user should also be in hands of the users themselves, and so we didn't want to indefinitely store that on the weave chain.
Yeah, so they're actually just using this service for their own purpose, and then to finish it, they hold their own funds and all that. It sounds like this service really just ensures that you have those funds whenever you're going to need them.
Yeah. Difference between what we now see on the decentralized exchanges is that there are order books and that you can put down your trade and that other people can respond to it. But one of the problems that we see on the dexes at the moment is that there's a lack of liquidity. And so we tried to look at the swap the other way around. Like, what if the funds are already available? And that's what the allocators do on our network. And that the swap happens at set prices, which we pull from the decentralized exchanges. And then we just put a fee on top of that for the people that are allocating their crypto funds. Then you could actually decentralize the functionality that we see in Shapeshift and make it really easy for users to swap to one chain or the other. So this is specifically geared to users that are not very technical and not to traders. Traders will definitely want to be on the dexes. But we also hope that this idea will create more liquidity on the dexes, because the Internet of Coins system cannot live without the decentralized exchanges. We'll need those to hook into those to make these swaps more viable, to make sure that the funding and allocation between, for example, a hybrid asset and a cryptocurrency is available as well. That such a swap happens on the dexes. So we're trying to pull it together, as it were, from a meta perspective, to make sure that there's and more liquidity, but also an easier use case.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop and I'm going to ask if anybody here has any questions, because I do have more questions, but this is largely for the people who join up to these Hangouts to ask whatever they feel like they would like to ask as well, because let's face it, many of the people here are very interested in blockchain technology and have a lot of experience and expertise in their own ways. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to step back just for a moment, let everybody have a moment of silence or a moment for you to step up and speak. I think that this is a really cool and interesting project that we could dig into on more than one Hangout.
I got a question. What are the first cryptocurrencies or blockchains that are on your roadmap?
At the moment, we have a list of 7 blockchain technologies, and they all have the possibility to run a decentralized exchange. So, and that they are Omni, Counterparty, Next, the New Economy Movement, and BitShares itself, of course. And also, we had in there the idea to add Lisk, but they are not ready yet with their SDK, so we don't have them. Wait, just let me get the list, because I'm a bit tired of lack of sleep.
Fair enough. I think we can all agree that we can empathize on this one.
Oh yes, and Ethereum is also a one we are going to add, because they have Ether Delta as a DEX. We have Waves, and I think that was all of them. Am I correct? Yeah.
And when you say Waves or Next, do you also mean that all the assets that are defined on their decentralized exchanges will also be swappable among those other blockchains?
Well, frankly, that is the idea, but if they will be swappable or not is also dependent on if people want to allocate them for swaps. So in the first instance, we're trying to create one hybrid asset that will always be swappable, because a lot of people will be able to recognize it and allocate it. But we hope that eventually all assets and all cryptocurrencies will be swappable. But it also depends on if the users want that. And if they do, they will put them out for allocation. If they don't, then of course, then a cryptocurrency will not be swappable. So it's up to users if that's going to happen. It's a bit like BitTorrent, where you choose to share a file or not.
And that's a wonderful model.
Thank you very much. And one last question indeed, if you excuse me.
Please.
Go ahead.
Do you accept investments at the moment?
We've been, first of all, working for 2 years where we didn't want to do anything that is ITO, like an ITO idea. But lately we thought to get the speed up, we want to do that anyways. So we are going to have a fundraiser soon. And then we will be asking people if they want to support our project. And for that, we're giving out a token called Hybrid, which will be the first hybrid asset. And it lives on the 7 chains that I mentioned.
And will that be the token that you use for fees in the system, or how is that token going to have the value imbued in it?
The hybrid token will be the first token that is allocatable and that can swap between chains. And that will be it will be like that for a while, until we've got all the kinks out of the system. So hybrid will be able to swap in the first instance between these 7 chain systems, but we're going to add chain systems on as we go, so that more and more cryptocurrencies can be swapped via hybrid.
Oh, okay, I see. So holding the hybrid token will be how you actually exchange between chains.
Yes, in first instance, you can allocate only hybrid tokens, and that will be the first mechanism to swap. But we want to work towards being able to allocate any cryptocurrency and also any other asset. And eventually, we want to make it possible that anybody can issue their own hybrid asset, because then the control over the asset will not just be in the hands of the Internet of Coins organization, which is with hybrid right now the case, but it will be everyone's possibility to create their own swap token. And if they can get a high enough rating or acceptance in the community, they can create a very highly liquid swapping mechanism like that.
Oh, that's cool too. So it opens up the ability for people from different communities to kind of compete by creating their own swap token and trying to get backing for that.
Yes. What I also thought was very interesting about BitShares is I had spoken with Ronnie Busing a while back, and he asked me, because in first instance we didn't have BitShares on the list of systems that were going to be part of the first hybrid asset, and he asked, like, why not? Could you take a look at BitShares again? And I said, well, 2 years ago, BitShares was going through a little bit of a rough stage where a lot of code still had to be redone. And so I didn't know where they were at the time. And so he said, well, take another look. And so I did. And the code now looks very solid. And so I said to Ronnie, hey, it is a good idea to add BitShares because you have a good ideas like smart coins, and the successfully pegged coins that you have on BitShares are actually very useful. So it got my mind thinking of things like, okay, what if we create hybrid assets in the future that, for example, connects straight to BitShares assets. You could create, for example, a dollar or a euro that is crypto, which is completely swappable between chains.
Yeah, and you could actually back it with something like BitUSD or BitEuro or something like that.
Exactly, and then you could actually send your BitUSD or BitEuro to another DEX if at that moment you want to trade with someone there, or send those back to BitShares. So that's something that really made me think like, hey, this would be a nice idea to do it like that.
That's really cool, man. I would love to hear more about it. If for the time being, though, we're getting close to the end of your segment. So if anybody wants to reach out to you to talk to you a little bit more, or to maybe become part of this, how would they go ahead and do that?
Our current campaign website is coinstorm.net. Let me write it in the chat box.
And that is all one word, correct? Coinstorm.net.
Yes. And our other website, as you can see above, where the white paper link is posted, is internetofcoins.org. It's our older website that's been in the air since 2014. If you have any questions, comments, criticism, feedback, anything is welcome, because we need this feedback to make sure that we build towards a decentralized system that will be good for everyone. So we want to just hear what you think about our project, and so just go ahead and shoot. Also, you can find us on Bitcoin Talk in the Internet of Coins thread.
Well, sounds good, man. I love to hear more about this, and I hope that you'll come back to answer some more questions. I know I have more. I suspect that there are other individuals here who would have more. And I would also urge you to check out the BitShares Hangout that happens directly before this one every Friday as well. You might find that you can get some people from the BitShares community who are interested in supporting you in their own little ways, because BitShares does offer some really cool things that all these other DEXs might really find useful to help them as well.
I'll definitely put it on my agenda. I've used Mumble myself for our team of Internet of Coins. We use Mumble a lot, and I didn't know there was other communities using it so much other than gamers, and this is great to see so many people in this room, and I think it's a really good way to communicate.
Are you a gamer?
No, I'm not a gamer, but I just thought Mumble was such a handy way to communicate, and it works over Tor, so that's how we got to using it.
Well, it's funny because people who run guilds or have run guilds in the past, it becomes pretty obvious if you are or have ever been a gamer, especially if you've run communities, that gaming communities have really solved a lot of the problems that anybody who has actual work to do in a large group needs to solve as well. When you organize and have to get a bunch of people from all over the place together, these gaming communities have accomplished a hell of a lot. So, it's kind of cool to see that these tools that, a lot of the time people would say, like, why is that kid playing that video game? Well, because he or she is training to become part of a new economy that none of you guys will understand when it happens. So, thank you for joining up, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, Robert is a gamer, and I have walked around in some games, and we're for the rest, I'm mostly a retro gamer, but I agree with
Well, thank you very much. let's go ahead and we're going to move on to Gian Jolly, who is the managing director of BitKapital. His site is https://bitkapital.com. So with that said, BitKapital, Gian Jolly, are you available to talk?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just step back and I'm going to say, you have an intro that you wrote here a little bit, but would you be willing to just kind of give your rundown of what BitKapital is so you can kind of explain it since you are the creator?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone, to begin with. My name is John Julie, as Fuzzy just introduced. Sorry, I'm a bit sick, so if you hear a few seconds of silence, it means me coughing and just muting myself.
We don't stop just because of sickness, though. You're a nerd, man.
Yeah, sure. For those who don't know, let me introduce BitKapital first. It's the Turkish lira gateway to the decentralized exchange of BitShares, which also provides an investment fund which yielded 4% per month on average in bitcoins. So if you have some idle bitcoins somewhere, you may think of investing in this. Let me write the address of it right here. Cryptomarian.com. It's an investment fund, but as BitKapital, we are providing cash in and cash out to the BitShares decentralized exchange in Turkish lira. But I'm not here to advertise our investment fund or anything else, but to talk about a serious threat hovering on BitShares indeed. To begin with, let me ask the audience a question. What is the first decentralized Turing complete smart contract platform? I'm sure most of you know it. Can anyone name me?
Did you say torrent?
Turing complete, I think.
Turing complete.
Turing complete.
Yeah, smart contract platform, which is fully capable of doing everything which just let's say C++ can do on blockchain, and which is totally decentralized. What is the name of that platform?
I would imagine that it's on F, but I'd probably be wrong.
Yeah, it's not Ethereum, it's Quora.
It's what? You're cutting out, Gian. Oh, really? Quora. Hey, go ahead and go into settings real quick.
Quora. Let me write it down. It's Quora. Alright, so let me continue. I said that Quora was the first smart contracting platform, but let me ask you another question. Who uses Quora now? And answer this one myself. No one uses Quora now. Now, with all its advanced features and robust technological infrastructure, BitShares is at stake of being like Quora, unfortunately. Because there are at least 3 developments going on at the moment which might serve as a serious competitor to BitShares, and they are all expected to be operative by the 3rd quarter of this year. Now, it's irrelevant to talk about whether or not BitShares may serve additional benefits, since one thing is for sure, they have more resources to spend on marketing. Thus, depending on my research and analysis, I can say that BitShares will either create something to manifest its inherent superiority, or will join the community of dead blockchain projects. As BitKapital, we have thought about migrating to a centralized infrastructure just like any other exchanges and serve as a Turkish Bitcoin exchange. And today I announced that we have made our final decision to stay as a decentralized exchange and to help BitShares come up with a competitive product until the 3rd quarter. I believe this is an achievable goal, especially considering 2 of the latest developments. First one is the involvement of Ether design in the user interface development, and the second one is the Fabian's new Python library, which makes it quite significantly easy to develop on top of BitShares. So what we are going to do is, first of all, to migrate from our own version of the wallet to the official Lite client, and to contribute in testing the features in different operating systems and different browsers, and test all those features, report bugs, and giving recommendations for the platform to best fit the needs of the end user. So no more isolation. We feel to be a part of this decentralized organization, and now it's time to get actually involved. Secondly, we operate the largest media channel in Turkey on crypto. It's like the CoinDesk of Turkey, and we are beginning raising BitShares awareness by translating and publishing the weekly state of the network reports and additional news from the BitShares ecosystem. We would also like to make interviews with the business owners like Chris or Data Security Node, which would require your cooperation. Last but not the least, we think that it would be more than awesome to have a BitShares wallet which is specifically designed for the end users who will use it solely as a trading platform. We have actually begun the user experience development, and we envisage it as being built on top of the PyBitShares, the Python library. We are going to present what we have to the community once it's developed enough. All right, that's a short statement that I made for today. Sorry for the coughs and sneezes. If you have any questions about BitKapital, our investment fund, CryptoMarian, or anything about our future projections, please feel free to ask.
Well, I have some questions, but let me go ahead and step back and say, does anybody else have any questions or comments here?
Actually, I have a comment. I agree with Jan Jolly that there are some projects that have extremely large budgets to spend on marketing, Ethereum being one of them. And personally, it's just an opinion that can create a bit of imbalance between crypto projects, that even though there are projects that have very good technology, that they have less eyes on them, less users, just because there's less marketing budget available. So I agree with that there.
Exactly, and I believe that your Internet of Coins project will bring some extra factor in the interplay of those different blockchains.
Yeah, these types of technologies that are going to be emerging, there's a couple other ones that I'm aware of that are trying to do very similar things. I think this is the next phase of blockchains where there's going to be a protocol or something, or maybe a few different abstract layers that are added on that will allow us to do different things with multiple chains and interact. We're starting to build those highways between cities, and then those cities, once those highways come in, those cities are going to grow and become larger and become mega cities. My question, I guess, that I would bring up is, where do you think these other platforms are going to be able to technically, from a technical standpoint, match up? Are you aware of specifics on this, or are you saying that they're going to have the funding and they're going to know how we did what we did because it's going to be open source, so they can kind of build their own version? What angle are you coming at from this one?
Well, yeah, that's a very nice question indeed. And in both ways, first, I know that they have the funds to market their products, but this is just a superficial view perspective on what they're up to do. Secondly, more importantly, I know that, for instance, Ardor Next 2.0, whatever you call it, they will have these side chains which you can customize in a way that to allow you to build your own customized decentralized exchanges, maybe. So it's a kind of cosmos of decentralized exchanges coming together to form one main chain. With Ardor, sorry.
You're fine, man.
With Ardor, which is expected to be operative in the third quarter, it's actually one of the 3 projects that I mentioned. You can maybe build something better than what we currently have in BitShares. And the main chain is built on proof of stake, with your side chain built on whatever you like. You can just customize the consensus protocol as well, which could yield like microseconds in transaction confirmation in side chains, which will be settled down and inscribed in the main chain in 1 minute intervals. So this could be used just as an exchange. I'm just thinking in terms of an exchange operator, and we are operating in Turkey and we're using BitShares. I mean, when the time comes, using Ardor instead of BitShares would be a lot easier and maybe a lot convenient, although graphene technology at its essence is superior. So another example could be Waves, for instance. Waves will have something similar, not side chains, but they will have centralized settlement and centralized matching algorithm plus decentralized settlement. So what you have is an auditable and transparent and immutable chain, but you also have the benefits of centralized matching, which is a superior speed.
But could also be manipulated.
No, you cannot let that, because those are done through atomic swaps, which multi-chain already has. You can just download multi-chain and try it yourself. You just give a bid order. Let's say I want to buy 10 bitcoins for this much Turkish lira token, and that cannot be manipulated. There might be different servers to better check the integrity and the well execution of the entire matching process, but it will not be decentralized, so it will be based, let's say, 3 servers or 4 servers, so it will benefit from the centralized execution's benefits.
So to wrap it up then, what exactly about BitShares made you guys say, okay, yeah, I know you've talked a little bit about these two, the Python library, and what was the other one? There's 2 things that have been created that have kind of changed your mind about what can be done here, right? So is there more to this? Like, you think that BitShares has better underlying technology, which from what I understand, I kind of like it more too. I'm also biased, but I think that I'm coming from an objective standpoint. What exactly has made you guys choose, yeah, we're going to stick with BitShares? And what do you see the vision, and then how do you see us helping you guys complete this, and how do we support that?
One thing, I was actually biased, but against BitShares in the beginning. But when I learned more and more about all those delegated posts and witnesses and how the entire system works out, I begin researching more into this, and as I begin researching more, I begin to like more and more. I believe that graphene technology has some inherent superiority to those platforms that I mentioned, and also the platforms that I didn't mention. Maybe there are only a few exceptions in the crypto world which could provide a better alternative to graphene, but which are not, those better alternatives are also suffering the same thing as BitShares. By far, as far as my research goes, I can say that graphene technology is the best to build some production-ready, enterprise-ready applications on top of it. But this could change within a matter of a year, let's say. But as for us, our final decision was affected by the fact that BitShares has 3-second block confirmation times, and we needed that. We really needed that, because Next has 1 minute confirmation times. Others have even larger, and it has a working decentralized exchange. But what is more important than even those things is the community. I found when I first entered into that Telegram channel, we fight it a lot. We fight it on those bit assets. We fight it on those many aspects of the usability and the infrastructure.
Where do you have conversations like that?
Yeah, that's specific to me. Maybe whenever I enter into a new place, I always fight. I don't know. Anyways. But
Please continue.
yeah, in the end, I see that there is really a small but very mutually supporting community, which is what we actually need. We need to cooperate. We need the culture of decentralized organization, which doesn't exist in those other platforms that I mentioned. It's
Yeah.
about culture. It's about being a decent. It's about giving the
Yep.
respect of being a DAC, decentralized autonomous company. It's not just a word. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's actually existing as one and building things as one and marketing as one and keeping a community together. You're right. BTS community has really been something that's been an amazing thing to archive because of people like you who join up. We've had over 200 episodes between BTS, Gridcoin, and this Beyond Bitcoin Hangout, but it's people like you guys who make this possible. It's really cool, isn't it?
It is.
It's amazing what I always laugh with people and say, how many people in your general vicinity, if you went to a coffee shop, could you talk to about this? Or if you went out and even if you went to a computer store and you talked about it, how many people would know what the heck you're talking about? So to have, 30 or 40 people on a Friday all here listening and asking questions and being part of it, it's kind of an amazing thing where you can actually be surrounded by people who listen to this and say, yeah, this is what we're going to be doing and we're building the revolution. There are some people who want to have a chaotic revolution and throw Molotov cocktails because the system's not working for them. But all the people I see here are trying at least to support something that's going to build a revolution, that's going to change the world and fix some of these things from the inside. It's going to be really cool. Well, I'll say, G and Jolly,
I see someone's asking a question here on the left pane.
G Chicken's asking you a question. I'm sorry I missed those. Let me go ahead and read those off. G Chicken says, how has Pi BitShares or Uptick impacted your operations? How has it made life easier?
Its immediate impact was that we are running day to day 3 scripts that are doing something on BitShares blockchain, and we migrated to Pi BitShares, which made life just a bit easier, but it's not a big deal. We already had a working script which was based on older Graphene library. But what is most amazing about Pi BitShares is the possibilities that it opens. Now we are working on it to develop a brand new trading platform on top of the BitShares decentralized exchange. It will be like one of you guys mentioned before this Beyond Bitcoin session about customized, specialized, different kinds of wallets that is specifically designed for end users' needs. So this will be one of them, based on Python library, and this will serve the needs of those who will only trade just as a trading terminal. As we advertise BitShares, right? It's a decentralized exchange, so it should be presentable and advertisable to those people who has no interest in issuing new assets, who has no interest in, let's say, different kinds of multi-signature schemes or owner keys and active keys and all that, but only to trade a few different cryptocurrencies among themselves. So our new interface will make life a lot easier for those type of cryptocurrency users, which will bring liquidity in the end, we believe.
Yeah, well, let me ask you, because one of the things that the BitShares community talks about during our Hangouts is that we found that we have enough BitShares approximately for $15,000 to $20,000 a month. If there are things that you think would be the best bang for the buck from what you guys have been looking at to spend their money on, what would some things that you would want to know about or look at? What would some of the things that you would think would be valuable?
I think it's not the time for me to tell this. Just wait a couple of months and I'll tell you that. I'll bring out a new worker proposal to develop much further
Oh, you
what
have
we
some
have already
ideas.
developed. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Just drop by and let us know. Well, does anybody else have any questions or comments? Oh, there's one other one here by G Chicken. How your referral stats are always very impressive week on week. How do you feel your penetration on the Turkish market is going? That's a good question.
It's not very good, to be honest. We are working with my partners are those who are the most famous celebrities in cryptocurrency circles in Turkey, but still because of the API problems, because of those maybe you don't know it, let me explain. Turkey just abandoned winter time. Is it winter time? Did we just get out? No, it was winter. What month are we in? It's March.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's winter time. Yeah. Anyways, as I said, I'm sick. So Turkey abandoned winter time, and now we always use our summer time, which many servers did not know, and it causes a problem in API time checking, daylight savings
You gotta
time.
be kidding me.
And and people use those that other exchange which do not accept newcomers. They only accept those old members, and they were not accepting new members, but people still were waiting for them to open new membership registrations. They finally did, and they all went and registered that place. And all the complaints that we get about this platform is all about its hardship of use and its those API problems mainly. So it's because of this we want to get involved in the main core development of the wallet and try to make our efforts in the development which is in line with the greater BitShares community to get better results.
I'd love to ask why they did that, but I don't know that you will have a rational answer. You're probably shaking your head wondering the same question.
Well, we're actually very business-oriented people, and we know how this market works, and we can more or less know what those people think when they just waited for that old exchange to open new membership registrations. They're mostly composed of very novice traders, and they're not even investing. They're kind of in between investing and gambling, and they don't want to get their hands dirty with those decentralized stuff. They don't get their bitcoins out of an exchange at all. So it's such an investor profile that we know very well, and we know their needs very well. And now Turkish cryptocurrency ecosystem is expected to be as large as $15 million, with $270 million expected potential, a calculation made by one of our finance experts. And now all these, we try to educate people about why this Bitcoin matters. I mean, you buy this and because you think it's going up in price, and you want to sell it when it goes up. But why it goes up and why it matters for the world is the thing that we want to teach to those people, which in the end I think that will give us a more quality user base and investor base.
Well, real quick, we're running toward the end of this segment, but what I would like to ask you just real quick, I suspect that the answer is that there's not really too much right now that people can do to help you, because it sounds like you're keeping some things until you're ready to reveal them. But if somebody wanted to help you or work with you, or they had questions or wanted your input on something, how would they get that?
Well, they can just email me. I'm writing down it here. I'm always open to cooperation of that kind, of course.
Now, is there any other way? Do you want me to read that off? Oh, this is okay. So it's Gian at BitKapital.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to memorize. And
JIAN at BitKapital with a K.
Yes.
So that is JIAN@BITKAPITAL.com. I really would love to hear some more about this. I'd like to have some more community questions. I definitely have some questions and comments myself. However, we are running a little bit over on this segment. As often is the struggle, it's very rare that going under is the problem. So, with that said, I'll say thank you for joining up, and thank you to those of you who are supporting all these guest speakers. And we have one more guest speaker for the day. His name is Pugino. I think I'm saying that right. I hope I'm not murdering it. The relevant tag that you give is photo steam, and this is because you have a site called steam.photos, and this is going to be a photo social sharing site network that is built on top of the Steem blockchain. I would love to see if you are available, and maybe you can talk a little bit to give your introduction, give everybody a little bit of information about yourself, move into the project, and then we can open up some questions and comments from the community itself. No, no, I heard you earlier. You have yourself muted, buddy. Push on those lips up at the top. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, midnight Bangkok, Friday night. Well, thanks for nice, interesting projects going on here. So about PhotoSteam. PhotoSteam was an idea that was born while I was using Steemit actually. So I was browsing content, and I was amazed by realizing that there was not an easy way to browse photography or artwork on Steemit, which is a great bucket for all kinds of content, of course, but there was nothing specialized for this kind of photographic content. So I started playing around with it with this API, which can be a little painful, but I'll tell you more about that later, maybe. So I started this project like 2 weeks ago, and in 3-4 days I built something and I posted to the community. Of course, I wanted to get some feedback also, and just to understand if this is something worth going on or not, basically.
So I personally think that it's a great idea, but I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to say, does anybody have any questions or comments before I step up?
Pew.
Well, a lot of the time there aren't people who want to ask questions out loud. Sometimes they type them as well. So what I will say is this. I've thought oftentimes how beautiful the idea of these blockchains are, because you can literally have hundreds of front ends that focus on specific things. And one of the ideas that I was trying to build was the idea of a front end that collects from certain tags and then has other tags that are deciding for the subcategory, and the trending content bubbles up to the top and is trending news on that site, and then you can share it. What you're doing is you are enabling people who are very big into photography and art to really focus on that, which is a completely different demographic than bloggers to a large degree, right? And another cool thing about it is with your front end, you can change a lot of how that data is manipulated, right? So whenever you have the data from, I'm assuming, do you grab it from the photography tag?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Okay, so you get it from the photography tag, and you're pulling this data. You could actually make it so people can upvote, but there's no visual monetary value to it. So people don't really think about it. Or you can have it so you add more information to their voting, so they can see if they're, voting a lot of money. You can tweak the user experience to see what other people want, and you can have that front end out there that helps the same blockchain. So I personally think that anybody who's working on these things, I would like to talk to you behind the scenes, as a matter of fact, if you're working on that, because these are similar things that I've actually had people run into problems on it and kind of say, it's not worth it for me. So Yeah, man, I'm very interested in this. But I will ask, does anybody have any questions or comments regarding this before I keep going? Does anybody have any suggestions? Are you a photographer? Does anybody take photos? I mean, I know that I like to do Photoshop, and I would probably put that in photography because a lot of photography people use Photoshop to touch up things or to give them an artistic impression. Is that something that I can post?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I have an interesting short story to share with you guys. So I put up this front end not thinking of blockchain users, thinking of photography users. And I actually got 2 emails from people who didn't know what blockchain was, asking me how they could sign up to the service. So that was quite interesting.
So, I was thinking about something. What if you gave people only 20 upvotes per day, which kept it so they had to be careful with their upvotes, and you didn't tell them they were earning money from their posts. You just keep that out for 6 months. And after 6 months of somebody consistently being on, you actually send them a message and say, hey, this is how much money your account has secretly been earning on Steemit. Why don't you go visit your account and withdraw that money? You know what I mean?
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's way too late to do that.
Why do you think?
Because the cat's out of the bag. Everybody knows that you can earn money on Steemit.
Well, if he doesn't say that there's any connection to Steemit, because what he was saying, if you noticed what he was saying earlier, there were people who didn't even know about the blockchain. They joined up just because it's the photography aspect, because that demographic. And photography demographic, they take pictures no matter what. And they love posting their pictures all over the place. That demographic just is an amazing group of people.
Yeah, and it's been quite interesting. I got a lot of feedback. In fact, I'm getting so much traffic I was not expecting, and I'm having server issues. But it's a good problem and fun problem to have.
Well, one cool thing that you can potentially do is you could look to get a witness on the network. If it's something that becomes very much loved by the community, especially if they like what you're doing as far as development, and they think that there's, hey, if we pay this guy a little bit, he'll stick around and he'll keep developing cool things that he thinks are cool. That's kind of how these chains work. I always would urge people to consider it. But of course, making posts about updates on it and showing screenshots, that's another way of making good money too, because you will get support.
Yeah, I already got a lot of support on the first post, so that's pretty amazing, the power of the community.
So are you new to blockchain tech yourself, or are you pretty familiar with it?
Actually, this project was born because I'm playing with all the blockchains, working on something way bigger, so that was interesting.
Oh, really? You're up to no good behind the scenes. You got some other blockchain stuff going on, huh?
I'm doing some sneaky stuff.
Oh, please talk to me behind the scenes.
Oh, okay.
Well, of course, you're more than welcome to open it up here, but I suspect that you're not going to.
Nah, I can tell you, just, stop recording. No, I'm kidding. I heard before that open source, but it's not released. No, open source is open when it's released. So I can tell you a quick intro. I'm building on something way bigger, but it's going to be called Onos, and the slogan is a music platform with a human heart.
It's going to be a music-based chain?
Sorry, I kind of lost you there.
Did you say it's going to be music?
It's going to be a music, yes.
We have been looking for a music chain since we had something called BitShares Muse, as a matter of fact. So that is another DAC area that we have identified and have been targeting and waiting for to be opened.
Yeah, completely. And there's a lot of other projects going on. YouTube Music and Misalia has been going on. So yeah, it's an interesting area to explore, of course.
Well, I'll say this. I think that this is a good way of, if you keep up with this development, I know Good Karma, he he has been doing really good work on the eSteam app. So if you do good work and you keep doing it, I know he has a witness because everybody has been watching his work, and it's rare to get. We have a lot of them here, but they're kind of gold nuggets. You know what I mean? we kind of got lucky and hit a vein over time, but I will say that there's always room for more gold. There's definitely more room for more gold, and they like to give the witnesses to people who are doing those things, because if you're consistently developing and you love this stuff, it shows. And who better to put resources into the hands of than somebody who's going to see them as something that they can use to build more amazing stuff, right?
Yeah, that's completely correct. Yeah, I cannot help myself, man. I mean, geek in the heart. My wife is looking at me because it's midnight and I'm here talking about this stuff, so...
Yep. Well, and the cool thing is, though, and why we have these Hangouts, one of the big reasons, I myself have a young boy who was just born around the time when we started doing the Hangouts. And I couldn't travel to 40 minutes away to have a meetup, and I didn't want to spend a bunch of money to get a place, to rent a place out every month or anything like that. So we said, what are we doing? Let's just use the tools that brilliant people before us have created, and now your wife can be rolling her eyes, but you can be right there 5 feet away from her, still talking about what you love, and and it works,
Yeah, it works, man. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I personally just want to get that across to you, that to not be afraid to ask for resources, to show people and continue updating people on what you're doing. And this goes out to anybody who's out there developing or who has ideas that they could develop or design. If you have experience in development of software, please feel free to reach out and show the work that you want to do. Tell people what you're up to, what you would like to do. In the Steam ecosystem, the BitShares ecosystem, soon to be the PeerPlays ecosystem, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to be very interested in synergy between different creations that might be sometimes using multiple chains, sometimes might just be for one chain. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity, and the community will pay for a lot of the stuff if you ask. So a lot of people I think tend to feel a little bit like I shouldn't ask, especially the ones who generally want to who do a good job. They tend to not want to ask. But I think that they shouldn't be afraid to. So I just want to plug that to you, man. And I love the idea. I would like to talk to you behind the scenes. So I really do mean that.
Thanks, man. That was really great to hear that. Wise words.
Well, it's something that we learn. And there are a lot of people here who deserve to get upvotes and to get a little bit of something, because that's why, kind of like what Gian Jolly was saying, we have an amazing community and we have these resources. Not many chains have these resources, guys. The ability to give out tokens like this on this kind of, in this kind of way, like between the worker proposals and these votes and giving witnesses and things like that, it's a really powerful thing. So with that said, I want to ask you, Pugino, if people want to reach out to you to maybe work with you on this, or maybe they want to, ask you some questions, or really just any gamut of reasons why they might want to reach out to you, how would they do so? So that is steam.photos.contact@gmail.com.
That's right. Yeah. That's the email that I've set up for this project. So feel free to just ping me an email and let's talk.
Is there anything that you would like to bring up or ask the community?
Yeah, I already got some amazing feedback on the post, like some new features that I'll be working on. Mm-hmm. So any feedback that you have, any suggestions that you might have, just send me an email or ping me. And yeah, that's been great.
Well, I have an idea I think that you'll love, but we'll talk about it for sure.
Nice, thanks.
Well, with that said, everybody, I'll say this. Thank you for joining up to another Beyond Bitcoin Hangout. If you are a nerd who is looking to find tools that will empower all of us to change the world in ways that we kind of thought impossible before, there's a bunch of disruptive tools out there, but blockchain technology is one of the biggest ones, and in many ways, one of the most underestimated by the large majority of citizens. So if you are here today, you are very, very early, and these projects can become very big if we've got people who care about them and don't give up on them. Really, the people drive these things and breathe life into them. The blockchains themselves are just tools, so I urge you all to use them to help one another and to make sure to archive it here on these Hangouts. With that said, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
La 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 la.